4 in 10 people believe in ghosts. Over a third of people believe intelligent life exists outside of Earth. 43% of people believe demons exist. There are unexplained phenomena happening daily around the globe, and we are here to talk about it. Your portal into UFOs, paranormal, cryptids, the supernatural, the mysterious, the unknown. I see you. This is Beyond the Radar, and this is your host, Humanoid Tom Conway.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Radar, ladies and gentlemen, your paranormal news program. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Also on the UPRN Facebook and YouTube page, as well as Beyond the Radar's Facebook page and YouTube page, I should mention. We are also on Roku TV. You can check out our archives there or subscribe to Beyond the Radar podcast on Spotify for past shows. And today, everybody, we have another wonderful episode. We continue our Summer of Species with something a little different today, but we're going to do a deep dive. And how many of you out there, I know not many, it's something that's a little hidden or beyond the radar, is the Flatwoods incident back in 1952. Not many people, it's not something that comes to mind for a lot of people. It's a subcategory, I should say, of a alien entity, close encounter of the third kind that happens in this country. There's a few of them, Hopkinsville, is to a certain extent Mothman, and then obviously this one, the Flatwoods Monster case. And we're going to do a deep dive on that today. We're going to talk about all the wonderful, interesting things that happened to this family. Nobody was hurt, so that's good. But we're going to talk about all the wonderful, interesting things that happened in this case and what's going on and how it affected those people. And we'll take a look at some of the skeptical evidence. We'll take a look at some of the wonderful stories, because the stories make up this country. I could talk for somebody on hours. It's actually funny. I joke around with people. But I love to sit at the local diner, at the breakfast, counter, bar, whatever you want to call it, and just talk to anybody who's willing to listen and about cool stuff, weird stuff, and stuff going on today. So, let's get into it. But first, before we get into the story, one thing I want to mention to everybody is that we have to first understand the story. We have to understand what's going on in the country at this time. Now, keep in mind, this is 1952. Cold War has started. We are about 5 years past Roswell. So something about UFOs in the sky, alien entities, that it seemed to have been picking up steam. It's been on the consciousness of the United States for a while now. It's something that wasn't brand new. We have Roswell that happened. You have Mount Rainier flying saucers. You have movies even coming out in Hollywood at that time about, alien creatures, things like that. So it's something that we can definitely talk about and have on the forefront of our mind. So, we need to keep that, we have to understand where we are as a country first at that point before we get into the nostalgia or the history of everything that was going on at that time. It's something that's picking up more steam, and it's something that we never had before. Roswell was the biggest case of a flying saucer, and still is to this day, arguably here, so many years later, almost 100 years later, but other events, Kecksburg happens a little bit later than this. So this predates Kecksburg. But it's something that, is on the minds of everybody. So let's get into the story a little bit here before we start discussing things. So it was almost a fully dark evening on September 12, 1952. Freddie May, Neil Nunley and Tommy Heyer, all young residents of the town of Flatwoods, were playing on the lawn of the Flatwoods Elementary School. Suddenly, a bright light streaked across the sky overhead and appeared to crash on the hillside of the Bailey Fishers farm. The boys ran to what seemed like what they saw, or ran to what they saw in the sky. The Mays home was on their way, so they stopped there and told their mother, Kathleen, what they had seen. Kathleen called on National Guardsman Gene Lemon and the town dog, or the family dog, Richie, to accompany them to the crash site. Upon reaching the site of the crash, the group saw a red pulsating light. Lemon shined his flashlight up the hill, and the group witnessed a terrifying sight. A 10-foot tall creature with a head shaped like a spade and what appeared to be a dark metal dress. And I'm going to do dress in this. The creature's hands were twisted and clawed and what seemed to have glowing eyes of an orange color. It appeared to levitate off the ground, and a strange, sickening mist hung in the air. The creature hissed and glided quickly towards the witnesses. The group then turned and fled in terror. Some of the members of the group suffered from throat irritation, vomiting, and nausea, which persisted for days. The symptoms were passed off as side effects of hysteria, but it's worth noting that these are also telltale signs of exposure to mustard gas. May and Lemon reported the incident to local authorities that night, who researched and claimed to find nothing. Furthermore, on top of all of that, that family dog, or the town dog, Richie, the farm dog, he ran back. He was the one who engaged. And something not in that story that I know is that he engaged the craft that had hit the ground and ran through that smog, fog, gas, whatever you want to call it. He did that, and he became so sick that he took off and disobeyed every order from Kathleen and ran right into town, where he subsequently vomited all over himself, and the dog died. So that's something that they kept out of the story there occasionally, but that's something that you can check out on your own. So we have a poisonous, noxious gas that affected the humans and killed the dog. We have a crash sighting seen by children who went and got their mother and then went over to the hill of what it was. We have not only an adult, it's one thing if it's children, but we now have an adult, and now we have a National Guardsman going up there and corroborating the story. One thing that they didn't tell you is, let me show you here the picture. So this will help everybody see what the actual creature claimed to look like. This is zoomed in. This is actually newspaper footage. That's Gene Lemon on the left of the screen, and right is Kathleen May. So what these individuals saw got drew by a professional. This wasn't them. This was somebody else who drew it. That's a better picture of it to show size and scale and how it looked to a normal human. This thing levitated, had no legs on the ground, had just a mechanical dress. And that's why I did it in quotations, because I can't think of another word for it, but that's what it had looked like. So this thing is floating around up there, pissing everybody off, hissing. Through other reports, through an interview, actually, Kathleen gave an interview to CBS. They got all their expenses paid for the trip, but they didn't get paid for the interview. I wanted to keep that in mind, because some people claim that, financial gain is a motive for coming out with stories like this, but this is something that wasn't that way. So, they were allowed to go tell their story to CBS News. She described the hissing sound better than a hiss. She said it sounded like frying up bacon. So I'm sure, you have sizzle, you have a little bit of pop going on and things like that. They were able to tell all of their story to everybody who would listen for free. So we have to keep that in mind when people start claiming that, hey, somebody might be doing this for a financial gain or something like that. Where else can we go? So, let's see. This creature was claimed to be 10 feet tall. It has grown over time, and that's something that to me seems natural. As time goes on, sometimes they make it seem bigger than what it was. It started off as significantly bigger than a human man. As you can see in the picture, that's exactly what that looks like. Let me go to the better one here. There you go. I would consider that significantly bigger than a human male. The glowing red eyes, the illuminating aspect of it, and then the big hood type of thing. What could all of that mean? One let me go into what else happened around this time too. So that's the story of the main people who have seen the creature. They weren't the only ones to go ahead and see anomalies on this date. There were many, many others, and I will get into them. Hey, Nikki, good to see you. So, you have individuals. Who else? So there's another individual. His name is Woodrow Eagle. He called the sheriff's station in Sutton. Sutton, West Virginia is a close town next to Flatwoods, and reported a burning object thought to be a crashed airplane below Gasaway on the Elk River near Sugar Creek. The investigator was busy investigating the report of a downed airplane, which was coincidentally the Mays family. So he reported the same crashed entity object. This was Woodrow Eagle in a town nearby. The same night, September 12th, as the Flatwoods encounter, eyewitnesses George and Edith Snitowski of New York were driving between Gasaway and Frametown, West Virginia, just north of Strange Creek. Great name to have this happen too. Their car, equipped with a brand new battery, stalled, mirroring what happened to many UFO reports. A nauseating smell started to make their baby gag. George, the husband, got out of the car and searched for what smelled so badly, thinking that the engine was about to catch on fire. As he looked down the slope of the highway, he saw a large globe moving slowly back and forth, hovering over the ground and giving off a soft violet light. George moved closer and felt his words, the sensation of 1,000 needle-like vibrations on his skin. Then he got sick as well. He started staggering back to the car. Edith screamed and yelled that something was behind him. He turned to see a figure 8 or 9 feet tall with a big head, a bloated body, long, spindly arms growing rapidly, coming towards him. The couple, safely inside the car now, locked it quickly, terrified, and they watched as one of those long, spindly arms with forked ends stretched across their windshield as the couple crouched down in horror. When George looked up, he saw the monster gliding away, waiting and waiting. Finally, they saw a glowing globe swaying back and forth, lifting above the trees, take off into the sky, leaving a long trail of light. They found a motel in Sutton, tried to sleep, and were startled the next morning when a gas station attendant showed them a V-burnt brown spot on their hood, exactly where one of the arms was touching. Now, so that's 2 sightings on the same day. We have a third. A Birch River, again a nearby town, resident claimed to have seen a bright orange object circling the Flatwoods area. The location of James Knob, which is a fake name, was said to have been hit by one of these objects. There are also rumors that a woman and her mother have come forward and said they saw the same creature at a spot 11 miles away from Flatwoods that looked like an upside down metal garbage can and a ball of metal with a hood and glowing red eyes, which sounds exactly like the creature and what you see on the screen. So you have the Maze encounter. You have this Woodrow Eagle. You have George and Edith. You have that resident saying there's something circling. You have James Nobb's story and the woman and their mother 11 miles away saying they saw the same object. Julie, hello from England. Great to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by. So, this creature crashed. Real recap for anybody who just joined us. Downed object. A family saw this get out. People thought it was ominous because people started gagging and reflexing. It had a horrible smell. It had a horrible thing, and they got away from it. So that's where we were at before. I just read over 5 or 6 stories of people who. There's also an encounter from this would be southwestern Pennsylvania, in its trajectory going down towards, from northeast to southwest, of a little town in Elk County, Pennsylvania, who said they had seen the same red object gliding to the ground. And that's exactly one thing that I wanted to point out as well, too, is that this creature and this, it was never a crash. Everybody who has seen it said it was a controlled gliding descent in the same vein as Kecksburg, in the same mountain ranges, the Appalachians, where a lot of crazy things happen from all the way up to New York all the way down to Mississippi. There's a lot of crazy things that happened along that ridgeline. So this came down, crashed, or landed, I should say, not even crashed. And they saw this creature hovering along the trees. When they ran, they went and got the police. The police at first started to laugh it off. But there's one thing that they did not think about. The National Guard. The National Guard mobilized almost immediately. Very interesting for something that would be laughed off. Very interesting. The National Guard. Where do I find that one? Here. Give me a second, America. I wanted to read this to you. Okay, so through local police reports, the local police immediately dismissed the story of the Flatwoods Monster in this area. However, others were not so sure. One newspaper publisher who spoke with Mrs. May and the boys immediately after the incident said, "Those people were the most scared people I had ever seen. People don't make that kind of story up that quickly." The Air Force was mobilized, rushed out to Flatwoods, rushed out there, started taking soil samples, started taking pictures, measurements of the ground, you name it. They have they started with interviews and upon interviews and took several bits of material outside of the area and then told the family that what you saw was a meteor and don't tell anybody else about it, which subsequently was immediately ignored as Kathleen May went on CBS and did a full nationwide interview. So, very interesting story to start, and to start off there. Very interesting about how they wanted to cover it up as well, which is it's what we want to do, right? Here we go. Monsters of West Virginia. So according to Monsters of West Virginia, the United States Air Force issued orders for the State National Guard to investigate the matter. A unit would arrive in Flatwoods as well as the nearby town Frametown, so they could investigate similar UFO sightings there. Reports in local newspapers would ultimately state that the UFO was a meteor-like as it moved through the sky and ultimately settled upon the explanation for the UFO sighting over Flatwoods. It is further theorized that the meteors must have burned up and there was no remains at the site where the children claimed the UFO had landed. Years later, residents of the town would insist that all that was witnessed overhead was a meteor, and the fact that some description would even state the UFO appearance disintegrated would appear to back that explanation up. However, many researchers at the time would stick their findings from speaking with local residents who have claimed to seen something clearly land on the woodland, while others claimed there was purposeful movement to the object, such as a slow descent, which a meteor or comet cannot do. There are other reports of bizarre, monstrous entities on record. While we examine some of the proposed explanations of the Flatwoods shortly, it is those sightings that we will turn our attention to next. So, many people have described this as an orb, a bloated orb hovering around, moving up and down. Others say it's more of a solid, like an olive or an egg shape that hit the ground. One thing that is for sure is that Kathleen May was visited by our good friends, the Men in Black, afterward. Apparently, there was some grease, oil type residue on her clothing, and they went and she showed them the dress that she had on at the time. They took that dress, said they would give it back, and never returned. Very, very interesting at that point. So, we have all of these individuals. We have all of these individuals from different areas, different towns, all over seeing the same controlled descent object to the ground. We have this family who has seen this creature. We have another family who doesn't even live in the area, who was just passing through, see this creature. They both reported the same toxic, nauseous gas that they've breathed in that made them gag. We have the dog who passed away after smelling this. We are getting the emotional reactions. We are getting the physical reactions. We're getting the psychological reactions. We're getting all of the reactions as if somebody saw something and these people saw something that they can't explain. Very interesting, very suspicious when you try to rule that out. If it's just one person who saw one thing, that's one thing. But when you have the physical symptoms to back it up, when you have death, when you have people out of the area, also in the area, from nearby towns, in the town, people that live far away, and when you have the National Guard mobilized for this, it's very, very odd, because if it is nothing, why they don't send things out for meteors? Not to mention the reports of several townspeople who have gone up the day of, the day after, talking about indents in the ground, burnt grass, burnt limbs, burnt foliage, knocked over trees, knocked over branches, broken branches, knocked over limbs, plants burned, oil, grease, the fog, all of these physical things that are there. Yet they said it was a meteor that blew up. Well, if it blew up, it wouldn't have done all those things. You would still have that rock that came through the area and burnt and singed and did all the rigmarole of everything that it did. It just does not make a ton of sense to me why they want to discredit these people. But that's neither here nor there. I'm going to go to a quick commercial break. But on the other side, when we get back, we'll take a look at some of these alternative explanations of what this could be and dive into what creature this could possibly be as well. Stick around to be on the radar.
4 in 10 people believe in ghosts. Over a third of people believe intelligent life exists outside of Earth. 43% of you believe demons exist. We invite you to Beyond the Radar, your paranormal news show. If it's unexplained phenomena happening daily around the globe, we're talking about it. Exploring the unexplained, challenging the conventional, and diving deep into the shadows that lurk just beyond our perception. Come join the transmission on the United Public Radio Network. Once you come, you'll never be the same.
Healer. Read it today.
Do you want to reach millions with your product or service? Are you looking to connect with a diverse, intelligent, and engaged audience? Then look no further. Beyond the Radar radio show is your golden ticket to achieving just that. Our listeners are curious, open-minded, and always eager to learn. They value quality, authenticity, and innovation, just like your brand. With Beyond the Radar, your advertisement will be heard by millions of dedicated listeners. Our show covers a wide range of topics, attracting a diverse audience that could be your next loyal customers. So why wait? Take your brand to Beyond the Radar and into the hearts and minds of millions. Advertise with us. Let's explore the extraordinary together. Beyond the Radar radio show, where your brand meets a world of curious minds. Contact us today for advertising opportunities at www.beyondtheradarnews.com and fill out our contact form. We hope to talk to you soon.
Samantha survives a tragic accident thanks to Lucian, an enigmatic being. Her newfound abilities catch the attention of a secretive government agency. Drawn to Lucian despite the danger, Samantha is unaware of his true identity. She teams up with Lucian's brothers in a daring mission to rescue him. Accused unfairly, Lucian seeks refuge on his distant homeworld. Can Samantha prove Lucian's innocence and save their forbidden love? From the Sky by J.E. Nicasio. Available now. Get your copy on Amazon and BNN.
Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what lies beyond? Have you ever felt a sense of curiosity about mysterious lights darting across the sky? If so, my UFO 101 Unveiling the Unknown course is just for you. This course is a comprehensive introduction into the fascinating world of unidentified flying objects and extraterrestrial life. It is designed for beginners, so no prior knowledge is required. I am your instructor, Tom. I am an author, podcast host, and seasoned researcher in the field ready to debunk common myths and misconceptions. So are you ready to embark on an exciting journey to unravel the secrets of the universe? Join us at UFO 101 Unveiling the Unknown, and let's explore the unknown together. Don't let this free opportunity fly away. Enroll now and start your journey into the intriguing world of UFOs and extraterrestrial life. It would help if I wasn't muted. Welcome, everybody, back to Beyond the Radar, especially those listening 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 103.7, I should say, in New Orleans. So now we're going to get into a little bit of what they said it could be. And now you know me, and you know how I love us thinking loyal Americans with our free mind and thinking about everything, you know what I mean, and not just being told one thing and believing it blindly. You know how I love that. So let's start talking about what the official quote unquote explanation could have been about this. So one idea was that it was an experimental military craft designed for lunar travel. So it would state that the object she had witnessed was an experimental military craft designed for lunar travel. Once more, there were 4 of these craft overhead on the night in question. This is important because we will shortly examine the claims of a researcher who would state that the object was part of a formation of 4 alien craft. We should perhaps note that there is a chance that a great many accounts become little inflated over time, which is true. The more reporters flock to the area, the more neighbors, the people not actually at the scene, would be spoken to. All of a sudden, hearsay would infiltrate the incident, at least in some reports. It is perhaps easy to see why some accounts of sightings of not just UFOs, but creatures itself have been perhaps overlooked. Not least of that, the couple traveling back to Queens. Might it be possible that this information allegedly sent to Mrs. May by the government was an implant of the seeds of a cover-up? Even down to mentioning of the 4 vehicles in order to combat any witnesses who might make such a statement. As we shall see later, despite the apparent explanations, apparent new evidence in the last 2 decades might suggest just that. For now, though, we will turn our attention to other explanations. Another one is nothing more of a meteor. Perhaps the most likely and accepted explanation, at least for the incident in Flatwoods, was that the UFO was not in fact a UFO at all, but simply a meteor that the children believe landed nearby, but had actually disappeared a little way over the hillside. The research of one Joe Nickel in 2000 would certainly suggest this. The pulsating light, for example, was explained as either the afterglow of a passing meteor on the land below, or more likely from one of 3 nearby plane beacons, which does have indeed a red glow to them. There was also an apparent explanation for the markings on the ground and the gooey, greasy, oily substance. A local claimed that it was from his pickup truck that had been there just after the incident occurred had he driven down there out of curiosity. Not only were there markings from his tires, but the substance was oil from his car itself. This is interesting, not so much as it explains the situation reported in the newspaper as discovered by its reporter, but it brings behind the claims of Mrs. May and the oily substance she claimed the entity unleashed in her direction, consequently staining her clothes. The same clothes that were claimed were covered by government agents and not returned. It would certainly be a stretch to suggest such a cover up, but it is perhaps worthy of keeping the idea that this substance may have been of importance at the back of our minds, especially while we learn, according to some reporters, that there is little to substantiate the account other than the later admission report. Explanations, however, are not so watertight. The other aspects of the encounter were also seemingly neatly summed up. For example, the strange mist was explained as nothing more than just normal fog or mist that settled into the area. This, despite the claims of toxic or nauseous smells to it. The sickness of the witnesses was also seemingly dismissed as nothing more than shock or hysteria, while the throat infections being attributed to the kids screaming loudly when frightened. This is certainly plausible, although aspects are certainly not as neat a fit as those to explain the UFO with strange lights. Nor is the explanation that after a few moments' contemplation, that the strange aroma was nothing more than that of grass that was so native to the country. It would seem bizarre that so many locals who had their entire lives in the region suddenly become aware of this strange smell. Indeed, with these last suggestions in mind, let us remember that they are all the watertight explanation perhaps doesn't seem so watertight after all. That then brings us to the creature, or what it might have been. Nickel would also suggest, and many others agree with him, that the group witnessed that evening was not a robotic creature from outer space with monstrous claws and eyes, but rather a barn owl. Yes, you heard me right. They thought it was a barn owl. So I have this, which seemingly can make sense. Now take a look at this. They are claiming on the left side of this picture is the subsequent drawing of what this could be. On the right side is you have a bush, it's standing on a branch, and then the head of what a barn owl could be. Keep in mind this is distorted. The owls aren't that big, but just keep that in mind as I go through this next part. When sketches and drawings of the creature had been produced, there is indeed a similar shape to that of a common bar owl. However, we should recall how all of the witness claims they could clearly see the lower half of the body. This would state that all there was from a dark form. Many who subscribe to the explanation that the alien in the trees was actually an owl offer the reason that the witnesses didn't see a lower torso is because there was nothing to see, only forest or underbrush. The owl was likely perched on the branch, and the confusion and fright in the situation likely appeared as a tall creature with round head and big glowing eyes, especially when a flashlight would have reflected those eyes. Indeed, some reports state that Mrs. May initially stated the eyes appeared similar to a raccoon. Upon being confronted by the group, the owl, likely alarmed by its sudden influx of people, flew from the branch although not likely to attack, but merely escape the location. This would explain, according to the argument, the gliding or floating nature of the creature. Even the hissing, whining, or squealing sounds said to be heard by those in the group of witnesses are apparently similar sounds one might hear from a common barn animal in certain situations. And while we should note the bobbing and circular motions of the head and the shape itself, even the claws, can all be explained if an owl is what they saw. With this in mind, we think that the Flatwoods Monster could be put to bed as that. So that's where you have the official explanation. Now, let's see. The barn owl theory, it does make a lot of sense. I can see it. I can see how it can get, confused for a creature from outer space. But you have to suspend belief too much, in my opinion. You have to suspend belief way too much. What kind of animal do you know after a meteor crash, after a plane going down, a fire flies right towards that thing? No, they all fly away. They want to get away. They don't want to be around any of this craziness that's happening and going on. They don't want to be a part of any of that. They're scared. Their natural instinct is to be protected and to self-protect themselves. So nobody discredits that something was in the sky. The National Guard was mobilized. They said it was a meteor. Many townfolk, I went through the list of people, how many people thought that thought something was flying or coming down or even crash landed, whatever. That's not to dispute. If that is the case, and that is the barn owl theory there, what about George and Edith, 12 miles away, driving home, car stalls, which a lot of you know, smart, loyal people, a lot of you know that a car stalling and refusing to start is always a key aspect of every UFO story that involves vehicles. Whether it's an EMP or other technology we can't figure out yet, it always loves to stall vehicles. So, last time I checked, owls don't stall vehicles. So you're telling me that same owl, in a matter of seconds, was in the hills of Flatwoods, then 12 miles nearby, producing the same effects of nausea, irritable throat infection, vomiting, disorientation. It's still causing that 12 miles away. I'm not going to have to drill you any further on that, right, guys? Like, come on, that's crazy. That's impossible that could happen. So where are we? Where are we now? Tom, what do you think it is? Everybody who's listened to the show, who's listened to any of my former podcasts, my other radio show, every type of you name it. I'm a big cryptid guy. I love cryptids. I love the monster theory. I love all of that. Combine my fascination with UFOs, you can see now why I brought this one up to the light. Wanted to talk about it in front of a nationwide audience here. I do believe that this was a creature traveling, did not mean to stop on Earth. I'll tell you that right now. Didn't mean to come here, doesn't want to be here, didn't want to show up here. What it did was, through any kind of mechanical problems, failure, machine, what have you, I believe something was wrong with its ship. It had to stop. It had to be picked up. It had to do something. There are reports of this thing looking up at the night sky and shining its red eyes up, almost like a beacon, to the sky. Could this have been the red pulsating and not the ship, but actually this creature? Absolutely. I believe he was signaling that he needed to get off the planet. I do believe that the ship landed. I believe he got on another one, and through whatever conveyance or anything, they made the ship disappear that he was on to cover their tracks. I do believe making things disappear is a part of the MO of flying in interstellar, I should say, travel. I believe that's what happened that night. I believe he needed to get out. I believe this creature needed to get to someplace it was going. I believe that it was, beam me up, Scotty, you name it, whatever it is. It needed to be that way to another ship to continue his travel. The nauseous smell, the gas of the oil, all of that would lend credence to some sort of failure in the ship. Leaking gas, leaking fluid, leaking whatever you wanted to call it. That's what I believe that was. He needed to disembark one ship, make it disappear, get on another one, and get out of there. Do I believe there's still something in the Flatwoods woods or valley, the creek? Probably not. I don't believe it's there anymore. I think this was a one-time pass or throw in the area that got picked up. And I think that he's safely wherever he or she, I should say, is safely wherever it needed to go and needed to get there, and is doing whatever he needs to do now, hanging out, chilling. That's what I think. I would love to hear what everybody else thinks. But we are going to do another commercial break, and then I'll get into our last segment, which is, okay, what type of species? Because, this is our summer of species. What type of species was passing through? So stick around.
4 in 10 people believe in ghosts. Over a third of people believe intelligent life exists outside of Earth. 43% of you believe demons exist. We invite you to Beyond the Radar, your paranormal news show. If it's unexplained phenomena happening daily around the globe, we're talking about it. Exploring the unexplained, challenging the conventional, and diving deep into the shadows that lurk just beyond our perception. Come join the transmission on the United Public Radio Network. Once you come, you'll never be the same.
Read it today.
Do you want to reach millions with your product or service? Are you looking to connect with a diverse, intelligent, and engaged audience? Then look no further. Beyond the Radar radio show is your golden ticket to achieving just that. Our listeners are curious, open-minded, and always eager to learn. They value quality, authenticity, and innovation, just like your brand. With Beyond the Radar, your advertisement will be heard by millions of dedicated listeners. Our show covers a wide range of topics, attracting a diverse audience that could be your next loyal customers. So why wait? Take your brand to Beyond the Radar and into the hearts and minds of millions. Advertise with us. Let's explore the extraordinary together. Beyond the Radar radio show, where your brand meets a world of curious minds. Contact us today for advertising opportunities at www.beyondtheradarnews.com and fill out our contact form. We hope to talk to you soon.
Samantha survives a tragic accident thanks to Lucian, an enigmatic being. Her newfound abilities catch the attention of a secretive government agency. Drawn to Lucian despite the danger, Samantha is unaware of his true identity. She teams up with Lucian's brothers in a daring mission to rescue him. Accused unfairly, Lucian seeks refuge on his distant homeworld. Can Samantha prove Lucian's innocence and save their forbidden love? From the Sky by J.E. Nicasio. Available now. Get your copy on Amazon and BNN.
Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what lies beyond? Have you ever felt a sense of curiosity about mysterious lights darting across the sky? If so, my UFO 101 Unveiling the Unknown course is just for you. This course is a comprehensive introduction into the fascinating world of unidentified flying objects and extraterrestrial life. It is designed for beginners, so no prior knowledge is required. I am your instructor, Tom, I am an author, podcast host, and seasoned researcher in the field ready to debunk common myths and misconceptions. So are you ready to embark on an exciting journey to unravel the secrets of the universe? Join us at UFO 101, Unveiling the Unknown, and let's explore the unknown together. Don't let this free opportunity fly away. Enroll now and start your journey into the intriguing world of UFOs and extraterrestrial life. All right, welcome back, everyone, Beyond the Radar. Thank you so much for sticking with us and listening on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and everywhere streaming online. I got a little alfalfa going on here. Don't know when that happened. All right, so what I wanted to talk now to wrap up this segment is what sort of species could this be? What uses a mechanical suit? Are there any all mechanical alien races? What could it be? And the closest thing I found is a sort of offshoot of reptilian called iguanoids, which iguanoids' original homeworld was Orion on Orion's belt, but they later settled in the Bootes constellation on a water planet. They stand about 5 to 9 feet tall, and they have hooded cloaks that they use to keep their physical features away from everyone. They believe in service to self and thrive in darkness. This happened at night. They are troublemakers and conjurers of gloom and practice the dark arts. They despise the Galactarian alignment or the law of one and interfere on worlds on the cusp of becoming fully conscious. Their primary target is to install fear in star seeds and prevent them from raising their consciousness. Their goal in life is to see people fail. This feeds their egos and satisfies their need to control others. Their craft are old saucer technology, decommissioned ships as well. So, makes sense in the fact that with my theory that they crash landed and or didn't have the proper mechanics to go everywhere it needed to be. It was on a non-structurally sound ship. They have a great psychic ability that can infiltrate minds with the goal being to poison their target. People were poisoned in this, and to lead them astray into darkness and fearful places that ultimately imprison them. In short, they steal a person's inner dialogue and make it their own. So that thought that you have when you're like, I'm hungry, maybe I should go get something to eat. They take that from you and instill their own thoughts there. Iguanoids feel superior to lesser species and treat them with disdain. They would never speak out against an alpha albino royal draconian race. They know they would be killed slowly and made example of in a public forum on their homeworld. Iguanoids use draconian travel corridors, an antimatter universe, black wormholes, and trekking between galaxies. So that's what I found when it comes to what this creature could be. I understand that they said mechanical. They said that this thing was mechanical. It, had dark green eyes, you know what I mean? And things like that. If the eyes on all reptilians are green and when you shine a flashlight in, it's going to appear that way. The hooded cloak, you saw from the picture here. I'll bring it back up. You see that this could just be a hooded cloak that was on there. The long limbs, it's a customary in reptilian races that they have long gangly limbs. What I can't get past, and this isn't perfect, and I'm not saying it is the lack of legs or a tail. I can't get past that part there. I understand how that would stick out contrary to what I just read. But in the evidence of, their goal is to poison people. Well, they successfully poisoned and killed a dog. That's in the record. That's in the police report. That's what happened. They succeeded in that way. Could those, and we're learning more and more about star seeds as time goes on. Some people fully outright believe in them. Some people do not, but we're learning more and more about them. But maybe those children, one of them was, maybe all of them was, maybe the mom was a star seed, and it needed to interject itself there to have their whole life devoted to this and not fulfilling and outreaching and succeeding and growing and becoming more and more consciousness in their goals. Yeah, as you become fully conscious, which, Nikki, if she's still watching, uh, she's somebody who has raised her consciousness enough that she can talk to other entities and things like that. But if you were to be stopped along that and not fully there, you don't continue your path, you don't continue your ascension. This could have been something that happened that was so fearful to these people, to these boys, and to the mom, that they never wanted to continue on that journey. And good, I see you there, Nikki. Yeah, so what I was mentioning was this could be something to stop them in their evolutionary tract where it did not want them to become conscious. And was explaining that you were conscious, you raised your consciousness to a level you can see and talk to people. But if something stunted that growth, you wouldn't have gotten to that point. I think maybe this is something of this reptilian species that did that to these people, um, where they want to continue them. If you are a lackey, and that's what it appears to me. Let's just, if you are a lackey, in which they sound to be, you're the lackeys in the reptilian race. So you're not doing much. You can't speak out against the ones that are higher than you. They'll kill you, as we just read. But what you can do is the people that are all below you, instead of helping them gain consciousness, helping them to the form, they want to feel superior, and they would want to keep you down. You know what I mean? They want to keep you down. They want to feel superior over you. They won't allow you. They'd be the gatekeepers of ascension through consciousness. That's exactly what it seems to me. And Nikki said she'd be dead. Well, maybe you just wouldn't. You just can't be the slowest. You can be the second to slowest, but you can't be the slowest. So, in terms of being it's funny to say, but a cosmic gatekeeper, that's what it seems to me. It doesn't want you to reach your full potential. It doesn't want you to keep growing. It doesn't want you to keep gaining consciousness and being a better person. What it wants to do is keep you in your mode, keep you in your place so it can still be and feel, you know what I mean? It has control issues. It's afraid to have anybody there on their side, right? It's too afraid to have anybody come and join the cosmic rebellion, I guess, a cosmic life, which is something hopefully we get better at and we can continue to move on, because I do believe we're raising consciousness as a group. Yeah. Thank you. Feel free to use it, Nikki. Cosmic gatekeeper. Yeah, it seems like what they are. They don't want you to reach your full potential. They don't want people to astral travel. They don't want, because they feel if more and more people do it, it's not as special for them. That's how my final thought on all of that is. So, yeah, that's everything. That's everything for me today, guys. That's the Flatwoods incident. You make your own story up. I told you about the gas, everything, but some people claim it was a barn owl. Some people claim it was just a meteor, but I think it was an iguanoid race species who had to take a pit stop here on Earth, scare people away so it could go do what it needed to do and get on another ship and continue back. So again, thank you so much for listening. We have been broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We've also been airing live on Roku TV. You can catch us there and catch our archives there, as well as subscribing to Beyond the Radar's podcast on Spotify for past shows. Thank you all for tuning in. And before I get out, next week we have a wonderful episode. If anybody has seen the show My Paranormal Nightmare, Season 1, Episode 9, we'll have a guest whose paranormal story was on that show. So we'll have a little celebrity among us next week and talk about their paranormal adventures growing up in a haunted paranormal house with a goat demon and all of the trouble that demon had brought them. So next week, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Pacific. We'll have a wonderful episode for you next week. Please stick around and stay and watch our wonderful programming coming up on UPRN. But in the meantime, stay weird, and we'll see you all next week. Everybody, have a good night, America.